Good evening. Thank you all for being here. I am thrilled to look out at this audience of graduates, of alums, of distinguished guests, of friends and family. We are thrilled about this program and so proud of the graduates, and this is a wonderful opportunity for all of us to celebrate that. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank all of our partners in this endeavor. And I want to thank, most of all, the alumni and graduates for committing themselves to this program in order to acquire the tools and the expertise to make our city better and to serve the people of Chicago and beyond. So this is a wonderful thing that you've done, and we're so proud to have supported you in it. Round of applause. So this program was designed to empower the next generation of leaders coming out of both city and county government and the nonprofit sector to learn what they needed to sharpen their leadership skills, to be able to drive their programs forward. And you all are coming to the program with a wealth of experience and expertise already. You've already committed yourself to great work around the city. And coming here is an opportunity to spend some extra time in honing those skills and in making connections with your classmates, with the alums who are always so happy to come back, and to think critically about the really complicated problems that we are all wrestling with. Public policy is not for the faint of heart. These problems are hard, and we struggle with them for a good reason. And being able to take the time that you need to step back from your day jobs, as important as they are, and think hard about the approach that you want to take to these problems and how you can use this experience to amplify your impact is a wonderful dedication and an opportunity to also invest in the upcoming generations. You'll come back as alumni and you'll be sitting over there and they'll be sitting over here, and you'll feel kind of smug, and it'll be great, trust me. And also being here at the Keller Center. This is the new home of the Harris School of Public Policy. We just moved here in December, and so this year is the first cohort of the Civic Leadership Academy to go through the program here at Keller. And of course, we're really excited to have the space to host events like this, but also to facilitate the opportunity for rising undergraduates and master's students and PhD students to interact with the CLA fellows is really enriching, I hope, to both of your experiences, to think about how people are approaching problems as they're just starting their career, and the inspiration of people who have already accomplished a lot but who are still investing in growing the toolkit, in growing their experiences, is a wonderful synergy, and this space, I hope, has really facilitated that. We are very grateful to all of our partners around the city and around campus who have made this possible as well. This program started in the Office of Civic Engagement with Derek Douglas and Joni Friedman incubating this in partnership with Harris as the academic home, and then letting the program grow into Harris as its primary home. And we're thrilled to have partnered with them on that, and so grateful to that office in the university for investing in this. You've gotten support from Booth, from SSA, from the law school, from the Graham School, from the Institute of Politics. This is really a University of Chicago-wide investment in our city and in this program, and we certainly wouldn't have been able to do it without them. That said, of course, there are a lot of people on the ground at Harris who are working hard on your behalf as well. We have Will Howell and Sadia Sindhu. Peggy Harper's not here. Jocelyn Jones. Round of applause for all of them. The advisory council was instrumental in helping us find this year's class and prior classes. Foundations and corporations have supported this work, including the Chicago Community Trust, the McCormick Foundation, Microsoft, JP Morgan Chase, Capital One, the Field Foundation. There's a lot of investment across the city in what we're all trying to do here. And the alumni and fellows, I hope, form networks not just among ourselves, but also with those enterprises that really want to continue to partner in investing in the city. So no matter what challenges you face after you leave here, continuing on in your current work, taking on new challenges, being able to think through those thorny new policy problems requires a creativity, a drive, a flexibility of thinking that you've all demonstrated already and that collectively we've committed to deepening. You had the chance to go to London, to learn from policymakers abroad, to think in an immersive way about a new city's problems and draw lessons that you can bring back to our city here in Chicago. You've also been exposed in your day jobs and in your time here to the really difficult problems that all cities face and some of which are really amplified here in Chicago. And being able to bring those tools to bear, well, it may seem like the world is not an easy place to do that these days. We're certainly not immune to the problems that policymakers around the world face. And it's not a time where it's all that easy to bring rigorous analytical thinking and evidence to bear in the public policy sphere. Public discourse is not always conducive to the kind of approach that I think that we all want to take. But that just means your work is more important now than ever. The world needs the approach that you're taking, and it's a more important time to draw on a wider set of tools than has ever been available before. You've got new data, you've got new analytical tools. We have ways of addressing these problems if we can all work together. And that's what's one of the things that's so appealing about this program is the opportunity for the nonprofit and government sectors to work together. I know there are people in nonprofit agencies, in city government, in county government, in state government, at the federal government, all trying to address a common set of problems. And often the siloed approach that we take makes it harder than it ought to be, or makes it more difficult to reap the synergies that we ought to from those joint efforts. So one of the real motivations for this program was to help bridge that divide. And you're all being here in the relationships that you're forming with each other, we hope will be an important contributor in the city of Chicago and a model for lots of other cities. Just as you've drawn information from your time visiting other cities, we hope that other cities will look to all that you've accomplished and think about how they can import that model there as well. Of course, this is all done in a University of Chicago, Harris School fashion. You've spent time reading Machiavelli, Saul Alinsky, thinking about housing, thinking about transportation, thinking about poverty and homelessness. All of those issues require all the tools you have at your disposal. And I know that we were not able to, none of us is able to solve any of these in an afternoon or a month or a year, but the concerted effort I know is already paying off. We're really grateful to the city and to Cook County and to your nonprofit employers for letting you take this time to do this and for letting you join the network of 149 graduates that we have already, many of whom are already represented here. So congratulations again on your accomplishments. It's now my pleasure to introduce Congressman Garcia. Now I have a whole script here about how he's going to be on film because of his travel woes, and there was going to be a filmed message, and then overcoming all of those woes, sitting right over there. That is how much he cares about you. He made it here, which is a wonderful thing for all of us. As you know, Congressman Garcia was elected in November 2018 to the U.S. House of Representatives, representing the 4th Congressional District. He served as a state senator, a county commissioner, alderman of the 22nd Ward, and throughout his career, he's been a progressive voice fighting to improve the lives of working-class neighborhoods, thinking about issues ranging from housing to public safety, thinking about the role of immigrants and how to improve the lives of people around the city. He is a mentor to many civic leaders in Chicago, including several graduates of the Civic Leadership Academy. So he is investing in rising leadership as well as demonstrating that leadership on his own. I am thrilled to welcome him in person to the podium.
Thank you very much, Dean Baicker. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Baicker, different iterations, depending on how you pronounce things. I'm delighted to be here. Glad we landed at Midway safely just a few minutes ago. And of course, delighted to be on the south side of Chicago, my lifelong home since I got here, that is, of course, because I am an immigrant. That'd be about 1965, and I think that's why I mentor more and more people. It doesn't mean that I'm smart, it means that I'm older. That's all that it means. But I got to tell you, I'm very grateful to be here with you all this evening, because when I woke up this morning, I learned that we might have been at war if a decision had not been changed. I think that there's a debt of gratitude for people who don't believe that we should go to war. In the Joint Chiefs of Staff, I think they prevailed some common sense, and the correct decision was made not to go there. So it's been quite a hectic day in that regard, wondering where we are and where we may be tomorrow. And boy, there's a lot to think about and to do in Washington, so I feel like it's been a long day. But thankfully, we are not at war, and we are in a very celebratory mood. In spite of the fact that the president has confirmed this morning that there will be raids in Chicago and other cities if the press is correct about it, in immigrant communities, targeting immigrant families by the Immigration, Customs, and an enforcement agency, also known as ICE. So just a little bit of food for thought for our leaders and future leaders, and people whose lives, in whose hands our lives will be in, but most importantly, the lives of my grandchildren. So good evening, and congratulations to the Civic Leadership Academy Fellows class of 2019. Yeah. And of course, as a lifelong Southsider, since I came here in 1965, I'm a little older than that, 10 years to be exact, to the family, friends, and alumni in the crowd, welcome as well. For those graduating, this evening marks a milestone. You took an opportunity to learn while you are already leading and teaching others. And I'm honored to be here tonight to speak to the people who represent our best and our brightest. You have made time during your very busy professional careers to deepen your knowledge so that you can be better and brighter than before, and we thank you. During my career, I have learned that doing the job, assuming the office as I did earlier this year, only gets you so far. You need to approach issues with understanding and with the willingness to challenge your own beliefs. And as I spoke with your advisor, I'm told that that has happened. Congratulate you for that. You need to approach issues with understanding and with the willingness to challenge your own beliefs, because the world is changing. It is never static. Being involved was part of that. Showing up matters, and you're showing up big time tonight to celebrate. You don't need me to tell you this. You know this because you're here, so you know. But civic leadership is about more than showing up. It's about, and I wrestled with my speech several times. This is the fourth version, iteration today. But it's about aligning your passion with skill sets to strategically tackle the challenges that we face. We can invest in programs at the local and national levels, but their success will ultimately depend on the people who run them, who give them life and relevance, and that is you. Now I got to call on my assistant. For example, to flip the script on property taxes in Cook County, we must make sure that our methods for assessment and collection are fair. The county folk and the city folk here know what I'm talking about. To flip the script of law enforcement, we have to make sure that its public servants represent and protect all communities. The law enforcement personnel here will give me an amen. and that our criminal justice system has a sense of responsibility for those who pass through it. The public defenders and the state's attorney personnel will attest to that. And to flip the script on government itself, we need to invest in the people who work for it. In other words, don't be bureaucrats without souls. My sisters and brothers from the nonprofit sector will give me a strong amen on that one. Do you feel me? I get to violate the lines that separate politics and nonprofits, and I'm so privileged to be able to do that. After all, that's why I'm here, to connect and to collaborate. I'm not here to give a graduation address. I'm here to celebrate your stories and your successes, and I think it's important to note, success can mean recognizing a moment of opportunity. It has been decades since Chicago, Cook County, and Illinois had as dramatic a change at all levels of government as we have had to and begun to experience in the past few months. New leadership represents unique opportunities to make changes. Illinois lawmakers, for example, made fundamental changes to taxation, the minimum wage, and expanded reproductive rights and protected the rights of the LGBTQ community, issues that had been discussed and fought for decades. Many people spent their whole political lives in Springfield and never got a chance to vote on any landmark legislation like this last General Assembly session. Sweeping changes and newly elected leadership in Chicago and Cook County government have, this is where the chicken scratch comes in, created a new political landscape and potential and created unique opportunities for transformative change. That's where I go to the last page. We have in our midst a historic opportunity to turn Chicago and Cook County government around if we engage in collaboration and create positive change. And I hope the fact that two key players being on the 5th floor across the hall from each other will help make that a reality. In other words, Lori Lightfoot and Tony Preckwinkle, our new mayor and our seasoned county board president, with the renewed Chicago City Council and the renewed county board, have an opportunity because they've all purported to be reformers, innovative, and all are carrying out a historic mandate in their elections, can strike a blow to corruption, to racism, sexism, and homophobia, and move us forward. And replace those legacies of the old Chicago and Crook County with new policies of equity, transparency, and delivering on impactful outcomes and laying the groundwork for sustainable modern government in our times. And that's where you come in, because that's where we find ourselves now. So my question to you is, what will you do with this moment? The problems we face need new solutions at the scale of those problems. Our legacy is in your hands, and you, right now, at the nonprofits and in government and in partnership with our robust private sector in Chicago, have opportunities that many people in my generation only dreamed of. That is the responsibility and opportunity that the Civic Leadership Academy graduates face. I have mentored several of the graduates, alumni, that have come through the program, and let me tell you, they rock. 2 instances, the brand new alderman of the 22nd Ward and alum of the last cohort, He's all right. He's all right. His name is Mike Rodriguez. And Manny Perez, who couldn't be here tonight because the mayor is making him work overtime, who is Deputy Director of the Office of Intergovernmental Affairs. No joke in this town, in this state, and in our country. And no, I'm not just saying that for this audience. We need the best and the brightest from the nonprofit sector and local government to come together. You being here and completing this program is a critical step. If we are to flip the script on all these issues, and that was just for starters, and shift our outcomes, we must work together. Our community depends on it, and our livelihood and well-being requires it. So congratulations to the Civic Leadership Academy Fellows of 2019. Thank you for your present and future service to our communities and to our region. Wishing you the best in your future endeavors. Thank you, sisters and brothers.
Thank you so much for that inspiring set of remarks. It's wonderful to have you here, and I know we're all thrilled at the work that's being highlighted. I'm also delighted to turn the mic over to Will Howell, who's the Faculty Director of the Civic Leadership Academy. That's just one of the things he does. He is also the Sidney Stein Professor of American Politics at Harris. He's also Chair of the Political Science Department, although I don't know why he hangs out over there when he could be here all the time. We'll work on that. And he's one of the foremost experts in the nation on the American presidency, so he rarely has anything to talk about these days. He's, more than any other faculty member, developed relationships with the Civic Leadership Academy Fellows and steered the intellectual content of the program, and we're all very grateful to him for that. I'm delighted to give him the opportunity to take the microphone, and always happier speaking before him than after him.
That's so nice. Oh gosh. What an honor it is to be before all of you, dear fellows, and alumni, and family and friends, and supporters of civic change in this city of ours. So here we are. We're here in this moment of national polarization and division and disarray, and in this moment of local political transition and of possibility. And in this local moment for some of our Chicago residents of growth and privilege and affirmation, corrections to the property taxes on the north side notwithstanding, and in this local moment for too many, especially on the south side and on the west side, of deprivation and injustice and neglect. And CLA fellows, these CLA fellows stare straight into deprivation, injustice, and neglect. And they work to defeat it. That's what they do day after day. They give themselves over to the labor of this city that we love. And it isn't easy, because progress is much too slow, and losses are much too common. And wins, when they come, are partial and fleeting, and the need and its attendant suffering can be so overwhelming that one's resolve has every reason to buckle and one's attention to drift. But let me tell you, the resolve of these CLA fellows does not buckle, and their attention does not drift. Having spent the past 6 months with this extraordinary group, I've seen their resilience, their fortitude, and I want to say something about what anchors it. I want to speak not so much to its character, but its source, where fortitude comes from, if I may. In part, fortitude comes from instinctively knowing that which our first professor, who was here with us earlier, our first professor, Harry Davis, reminds the fellows at the very start of our program, namely that they have more to offer than just their singular selves. Dear fellows, Harry informs them, you too contain multitudes. And over the course of this program, the fellows learn to more fully recognize, harness, and then deploy these multitudes in their professional lives. They find the characters that serve different moments, different contexts, in order to push forward their chosen goals. In so doing, their imaginations of what's possible expand, their leadership grows, and their determination, buoyed by newfound sense of flexibility and possibility, takes root in discovery. But there's also strength in equanimity. An equanimity born of humor and grace and love and human connection, and the kind of equanimity that shone through Jessica Breyer, CLA class of 2017. Who we lost earlier this year, but whose memory lives with us. Jessica worked with the most marginalized members of society, economically and politically, sure, but also marginalized in that moral landscape where we judge the deservingness of others for human compassion. Jessica worked with parents who faced incarceration and, worse still, the loss of their children because they were accused of having neglected them or abused them. And how do you find strength to do that kind of work? The righteous indignation that fuels many of us was not available to Jessica's advocacy, at least not in the public square. Her clients were outcasts, and yet Jessica devoted herself, all of herself, to representing their interests in an effort to keep families intact. Avik Das, CLA class of 2018, and a colleague of Jessica's at the Public Defender's Office put it this way: Jessica always struck me as gifted with a superhuman immunity to cynicism or hopelessness in the face of tragedy. As I walk the hallways of the court now, in her absence, I feel that our court family lost one of its brightest, most enduring lighthouses. Her unwavering brightness in ways big and small revealed how things could be better, even when we could not imagine things being worse. Jessica means so much to our program and to the fellows who comprise it. Ali Amori, who is in our current class, offers this remembrance. Jessica Breyer was my friend. I met her when I joined the Public Defender's Office in 2013. She was my first chief, but she soon became so much more to me. Jessica became my colleague, she became my mentor, and she became a dear friend. I don't know why I was lucky enough to be singled out by Jessica. Lucky enough for her to always look after my well-being, my job, and my career. Lucky enough for her to push me to be the leader she knew I could be. Lucky enough to call her my friend. I don't know why, but I am grateful for her, grateful to have had her in my life, and I miss her dearly. And in honor of Jessica, we've created a scholarship fund for future fellows who demonstrate commitment to serve the most marginal members of our community. And I want to recognize who are with us here today: Jessica's mother, Cicely Breyer, her brother, Paul Breyer, and his wife, Jen, her sister, Sharon, along with Sharon's family, Bob, Sarah, and Jeffrey, along with Jessica's friends, Beth, Kathy, Joan, and Maureen, who are right here. So where else do civic leaders find strength? Where do they fortify themselves against complacency and indifference and despair that can too easily take hold and sap their imaginations and drain their will? In discovery, and in the rich and meaningful discovery that arises not just amidst open, free, rigorous, and critical dialogue, the values that this university holds as preeminent, but also through the forging of trust, through listening, through attention and care and respect, and through the recognition of difference and the humility that it appropriately demands. And I want to just say a little bit about the discoveries of this group over the last 6 months. There is power in vulnerability. Sometimes strength is nurtured by the affirmation and acceptance that follows a moment of vulnerability, wherein we see each other's humanity more fully and we embrace it and we're stronger for that. But so too, sometimes we find strength in disappointment and pain that can follow vulnerability. For vulnerability, true vulnerability is daring and uncertain, and it requires courage. For amidst vulnerability, others may misunderstand or reject or belittle, but in presenting ourselves more fully to the world around us, no matter the reaction, we reclaim a fuller measure of agency, identity, and self, and we learn to more fully embody that which we are, and we're strengthened for it. Leadership, real leadership, the kind of leadership that is required to move our great and vexing Chicago requires intentionality. Lesson number 2. It's not enough to just show up and to be present. Though show up and be present we must be intentional. We must think through our goals and objectives. We must recognize the audiences that stand before us and figure out how to make arguments that will resonate with them. And the inward conviction born of vulnerability then must be complemented by an outward awareness and intentionality as we try to navigate this civic landscape. And then there is storytelling, and we've talked a lot about storytelling in this particular group, how we connect with the meaning of our work, how we connect with one another, how we connect with ourselves. We find ourselves through stories, and we must, as one of our fellows emphatically proclaimed in our final meeting together, we must tell our stories. Vulnerability, intentionality, storytelling, that's a start, but it's only that. There is strength, too, to be found in empathy and in loss and in belief. There is strength in religion and in community and in family. But what I'm here to tell you and pay testimony to is that these CLA fellows are strong. They are not the feeble, pale, hollowed-out souls who blithely meander through life individually, collectively. They choose to live in the arena, and they're a force to be reckoned with. Yes. This extraordinary group of individuals, this extraordinary class, congratulations on what you've accomplished. For sure, but congratulations really on what you've created. The bonds that you've forged, the insights that you've excavated, and the strength that you have found. I'm proud to have spent 6 months with all of you. It's now my great pleasure to bring one of ours, up to the stage, Elise Citrini. Elise, yes.
Wow, tough act to follow. All right, good evening. I'm both honored and humbled to stand before you and deliver remarks on behalf of the incredible 2019 cohort of the Civic Leadership Academy. This is honestly the most insightful, inspiring, and supportive group of people I've ever been fortunate enough to be part of. We are a pretty formidable group. We've got chiefs of staff, a new deputy mayor, and a Woman of the Year. How is that for impressive? And this group really is and has become over the last 6 months like family. And so I want to take this opportunity for a quick shout out to my daughter, Amalia, who turns 11 today. So There are several insights that I've gathered during the course of this program that will likely stay with me for the rest of my life, both personally and professionally. A key lesson that I've relearned is how all leadership, good and bad, is about relationships. And I say relearned because this isn't really like a revelation, but rather it's a reinforcement of understandings of concepts that we've all experienced and been exposed to over the course of our lives. While at CLA, we've learned techniques for communication, we've learned skills for information gathering, processes for setting goals, mechanisms for using data, and all of that's critically important. And we've seen these examples put in practice in a variety of different sectors and a variety of different settings by really brilliant experts in their fields. But the most valuable outcome from this entire process for me are the intentional relationships that we've created over this course of 6 months. They've been forged in this crucible of shared experience. We've seen the power and the value of these relationships built over time through exposure and reflections while housed in this very special space. I've personally benefited from the richness of experiences that are different from my own to draw from and to learn from, and use those in order to address and confront challenges in my own work. I've seen that same reaction and response in my fellow cohort members happening in real time. So these are the lessons that we will use and will help us be better leaders in a new era for our city. We're in a time of transition, and while that can be really daunting, it also provides this incredible window of opportunity. This city is vibrant and it's beautiful, but it's also stark and heartbreaking. We have long-standing problems and we require innovative solutions. I've seen the evidence bear out that a key to moving forward on these issues is working together across sectors, building and strengthening those relationships in order to gain insight into our own work from someone we might have never imagined could be a partner, let alone a leader in this work. That intersection of expertise and differing perspective is where innovations can spark. And that's where we can best enable each other to take action to advance towards a shared vision. There are lots of examples that I witnessed over the course of these 6 months, but for me personally, the most poignant relates to policing in this city. This is a complex, sensitive, and seemingly intractable problem. It has a long and troubling history in this city. As a first-generation American, as a person of color, working with individuals in the city who are living in poverty, and they themselves primarily people of color, this issue is very personal to me. Our cohort has benefited from having differing perspectives on this issue, different experiences sitting in the same space, talking, listening, challenging each other, and learning from each other. Before this experience, I didn't really have much faith that there was a will or a way to change. But now I glimpse a path forward, and it begins with the relationships we've formed, like those here. And now as we move forward on our CLA journey to join the network of CLA alumni and continue to make strides in this civic leadership, I look forward, and our cohort looks forward to enhancing and creating those relationships. So we have a tradition at CLA of presenting to lecturers and presenters who have instructed our class with a token of our appreciation and esteem. Jocelyn, Will, Sadia, and Peggy have been more than instructors to us. They have been guides, support teams, taskmasters, and friends. The space they've created here is something singular, something so special. We've seen examples of leadership in action when a few days when our global practicum to India turned into a global practicum to London. Every challenge, every obstacle was met with grace and patience and wit. Every success that we had was celebrated and cherished as one of their own. And the growth we've collectively seen over the past 6 months would never have been possible without your enthusiasm and guidance and support. So on behalf of the 2019 cohort of CLA, please accept a small token of our appreciation to continue to motivate and inspire you in this continued work of relationship forging in the service of civic leaders.